All right. This is cool. A lot of people showed up. Nice. Should we wait a minute or you think we're good to go, team? Good to go. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for joining. My name's Steve Drost, if you don't know who I am. I am one of the co-founders of Quivr, which we'll get into in a second today, of course, but let the rest of the panelists go around the horn here and introduce themselves.
Go next. Matt Benson. I run a financial planning firm in Chandler, Arizona. I'm a Quivr user and a Jump user, so I'll be speaking to kind of how we use it and why we use it.
Sweet. I'll go next. I'm Ty. I'm from Jump. I'm a product manager here. I helped with the integration with Quivr, and yeah, super excited to talk about it. And I'll talk with an overview more of like what is Jump. But yeah, excited to be here.
Perfect. So Quivr, what is Quivr? Most of you, I'm assuming, have at least heard of us, or you wouldn't be here right now. But Quivr, we're one of the smaller and maybe newer CRMs on the market, and we're really different because we're founded by advisors. So myself, I started my own firm about 4 years ago. In the industry for 12 years. We have two CFPs on our team. I'm a CFA. We like to say that we know what ACATs are. We know what RMDs are. I mean, we have literally sat in every single role at a financial advisory firm. And as of the recent term here, early results are showing that what we're doing is resonating with advisors that do that real planning, right? The people that do a real planning. For example, back in October, we were the Advisor's Choice Award winners at XYPN Live 2024. The recent T3 surveys, we were rated the highest CRM in the industry. We were recognized as a Mighty Might, and our workflow engine was rated the highest in the industry as well. So when we look at the Jump integration and Quivr, what might make it a little bit more unique is you have people who are building this integration, along with all the great help we got from the Jump team, who have literally sat in or prepared or followed up for thousands of meetings with real clients, right? Again, our team has sat in the CSA role, to the CCO role, to the lead advisor, paraplanner, relationship manager, you name it. So when we look at utilizing Jump, right, which Jump is, I mean, it's a killer AI tool, but when you look at how you can maximize the use of Jump, it's really by giving it the best data that you can. And where Quivr differs is we do have significantly more data than your typical CRM. For example, we have an API integration with Holistiplan where tax return data is flowing into your CRM automatically, right? RMDs and things with Charles Schwab, like all of that data is in there. So now imagine if you have an incredibly robust library of information on your client, and then Jump is able to utilize this data to help you with meeting prep and to help you with meeting follow-up, right? So how can you then feed this killer tool as much information as possible? Now, today we'll get into the meeting module, which is how we prepare for meetings, hold meetings, follow up for meetings, and monitor clients between meetings. And I'm sure Matt will get into that quite a bit here. Of course, we'll do that. But just point of reference here is Quivr meeting prep. It's pretty good. Again, I practice my last surge, 45 meetings. I prepared for it in less than a day. So we're going to hear from Matt, somebody not just me, hear from Matt on how he's utilizing these tools for that. But otherwise, yeah, we'll let you, Ty, explain the Jump side.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I'll share my screen real quick. For those that don't use Jump, or just some sort of a high level of what Jump is and the value add that it brings to advisors. I'll start off by let's see. There we go. A little story behind Jump. Jump originally started off as a way to sync fields to Salesforce. That was the original founder's vision. And Parker, our CEO, had a neighbor who heard about what he's building and said, we would love that in the advisor space, especially we have so many meetings, a lot of admin work. I'd love to cut that down to 5 minutes per meeting. And so that's sort of where we jumped to this advisor space is we saw a need for it, and the co-founders had the tech built for CRM syncing and sort of transitioned more towards the advisor space. And so, as you know, advisors try to save admin time from prepping to meetings, post meeting as well. Do that through hiring, dictation services, generic AI. But Jump, we think Jump is differentiated because we are specific to the advisor space, and we are very customizable to fit your existing workflows. And so all of our notes, tasks, prep document, as you'll see later in this meeting, all very customizable to what you and your firm has currently. And so I'll go through and show sort of how this works. Before the meeting, we integrate with obviously Zoom, Teams, in person through the web recorder or through a mobile app we have. We are in the meeting with you as a note taker, or if it's an in-person meeting as a web recording. We then post meeting, we take notes, extract facts, tasks, and follow-up emails, making it much easier post meeting to complete your admin work. And as part of that, we sync with multiple CRMs, including now with Quivr. So post meeting, you can push your meeting notes to the meeting module or other desired locations. It's all very customizable. So if you don't use the meeting module or you have other locations you'd like to sync to, we can also configure for that. The goal is that Jump is there to just make your job easier, make you allow you to be more present in your meetings, and making the admin work just much more simple. We work with hundreds of different RIAs and BDs. Here are a few that have sung our praises, and we've loved working with them. Some other industry recognition that we've had in the past. And yeah, I'll just do a high overview of what the functionality is, and then we'll let Matt dive more into like how he's using it. But you'll see here, this is sort of the main view of Jump. This is post meeting. You'll see that Jump generates these meeting notes based on how you personally want the meeting note to be generated. And then also from there, we extract follow-up tasks. You'll see that on the right-hand side to where you can then edit, review, and sync over to your desired CRM. And as well, you'll see a follow-up email automation. One thing that we pride ourselves in is we know AI cannot be perfect, and so we encourage that all users of Jump review and edit the content before pushing it to any other outside location. We definitely comply with the human in the loop mentality. So we'll get more into this depth here, but you'll see here, this is sort of what that one-click CRM update looks like. Updating here a note field with the meeting note. We also do prep documents as well, which is Steve hinted at. We are able to view your CRM content for that specific contact or household and pull in a sort of prep document for that meeting, including an agenda, what matters to them, suggestion starters. And beyond that, also we do a post-meeting follow-up email that you'll see here, which is also very customizable within our settings to fit to sound like you and not just AI generated. Also tasks. I'll now, I think that's it for Jump, but yeah, I'll hand off to Matt to show now how he's using that in practice.
Perfect.
Stop sharing my screen.
Cool. So again, I'm Matt Benson, and if you guys have questions as we're going along here, you can just post them in the chat, and we'll address them here at the end. I'll talk through kind of how I landed at Jump, how I landed at using Quivr, and how we're using it, what I think is unique about it, and then we'll do kind of a demo as well to kind of show how it works. So I'll start with just saying how we landed at Quivr. I had been using a different industry CRM for several years, and candidly, I used it embarrassingly as basically a digital Rolodex. And we had, several Google Sheets that the data was scattered, and we were making it work, but it was cumbersome, it was error prone, it was manual, and anyway, I had hired somebody to help me do like an automation on Zapier. And they were like, how in the world are you making this work? You need something that's more robust. And he had mentioned Salesforce, which if you're not familiar, Quivr is a overlay on Salesforce. And I had long thought that, Salesforce might be an end solution for us. But I was aware of the large upfront development time and cost of doing that, and I didn't want to do that. And I'd been familiar with Quivr for a little while, and saw that Steve and his team had basically solved that problem of making it more economical for a small advisory firm like mine to be able to make it work, but not compromising on the product that our team is using. But at the same time, we gain access to everything everything that's good about Salesforce, we have access to, but I didn't have to do all the development to make it happen. So that's how we landed at Quivr. The thing I really like about Quivr is I feel like some of my pain points in the past have been, man, it'd really be cool if it did this, which I say about a lot of things, not just my CRM or whatever. And it was like I would go to my previous vendor, and it would be like you'd submit this request, and it was like it just went into the ether, and you're like, all right, that's probably not going to get done. But with Quivr, one, they'll help you build it out, and two, almost anything is possible. And that liberation is freeing. But it's also, knowing that the tool I'm using today is very likely the same tool I'm going to be using in 10 or 20 years is quite satisfying, because I'm building on the same foundation. So I like that. How we landed at Jump, about a year ago, we had a paraplanner or CSA that was on my team. He would do a lot of the meeting prep. He would sit in meeting, take notes, send a follow-up email, do the follow-up tasks. He had taken a new role about a year ago, and I had been vaguely familiar with Jump, did a demo with them, and I was like, oh, maybe this could be our solution to, kind of fill some of the role of our CSA that just took off. I was maybe a little skeptical about how much it might replace. But after we'd used it we're like, I have my last spring review meeting today. So we've been using it for all of our spring review meetings here for the last month. We used it for our fall reviews last year. And I would say what we've done for spring reviews is the most efficient we've ever been. Just as Ty said, the intention of Jump is to remove a lot of the administrative burden of meetings. So a lot of our, like Jump takes notes that you have in your CRM that tie to that record and shows pre-meeting, like, hey, this is what you talked about last time. Make sure you ask about their dog Finn or whatever. And then it summarizes all of your notes, puts it in a note thing. Those to me are really helpful. They're very helpful for compliance. It takes well better notes than I would take. I mean, I still take notes on a piece of paper, but this is about as good as my notes are, whether I had a note taker or not. It's amazing. I'll meet with a client for an hour and I take 8 notes. I'm like, wow, right? And I get a lot of the high level stuff, but some of those little details, like, hey, we're doing a road trip through the West and we're going to go see Yellowstone and the Tetons, and we really can't wait to stay at this specific lodge in wherever, Montana or whatever. Those kind of details I'm not capturing in my 10 notes I'm taking, but Jump's gathering those stuff and is reminding you to follow up on that in your next meeting, which I think is is quite helpful. One of the other things that I really like about Jump is their team's commitment to tailoring the solution to you. So as Ty said, they have a lot of automations, a lot of capability to build automations and tailor them specifically to you. So like it generates an email follow-up. Well, you can give it a template and say, hey, this is how I want it to do it. The way that we do scheduling for our like fall reviews is we just send them the Calendly link. So we tailored ours so it puts the Calendly link automatically for our fall reviews in the Quivr or in the Jump generated follow-up email. So it's a relatively small thing, but I don't have to put it in there. It's one less thing that I have to worry about. We built it so that it at the conclusion of the meeting as well, that it automatically creates our next meeting agenda. So based on the content of the meeting that we just had, and based on the agenda outline that we've given Jump of what we want our next meeting agenda to look like for our fall reviews, it creates a meeting agenda and says, hey, what are updates? Make sure that we're asking about, these 2 or 3 things. And they mentioned that they were doing their cabin remodel. They said they were going to need $150,000 between now and the end of the year. Do we need to take distributions, or do we need to talk about taking a HELOC or whatever? We talked about doing Roth conversions to fill up that 22% tax bracket. So putting that as a sub point under the tax piece. All of those little things to me are really big deals because it allows us to do the part of being an advisor that you can't replace, which is the human element. So
It's impossible to remember all of that.
it's impossible to
Yeah.
remember that.
All right, so like earlier, Matt, when I was mentioning the whole point, like jump is going to be the best, the most valuable that it can be based upon the data set that it's allowed to access. So if we do that whole circular data, right, like you're meeting with that client, it's remembering you did this, or during the meeting, it's talking about your national parks trips. That's getting into the meeting summary. That's getting pushed back to your CRM. It's taking all of those notes data, all that notes data plus any other data that's getting fed into that CRM. So like again, Quivr, Holistic Plan, Schwab, right? You name it, all of that information. And then when you go to your fall surge or your fall review or whatever you want to call it, those prep and follow-up, in theory, should just keep getting better and better and better and better because you have better and better and better data getting fed to Jump.
No, 100%. And I think one of the things that is like I can do meeting follow-up and like depends how motivated I am. This is where user error comes in sometimes. But if I'm prepared, I could do the follow-up in usually 15 or 20 minutes where I'm just reviewing the notes, reviewing the email, just like Ty said. Like it's not bulletproof, but I'm going in and I'm saying, hey, let's tweak that a little bit so it sounds more like me or whatever. The thing that I like is like it's simple, but the way that we used to do it before, like follow-up tasks, like, hey, we're going to do a Roth conversion. Hey, we're, of this amount. All of those are same. Like to me, that's the most valuable thing, because what was happening before for us is I would have to go into the CRM, and it's not complicated, but create tasks, create workflow, whatever, and I have to fill that whole thing out. Like in Jump, I am, Steve, you and I were talking about this the other day of if I conclude the meeting and I go, yes, cool. So our follow-up items, cool. We're going to double check that this is actual notes. We're going to double check that workers' comp income and see if it's taxable or not, or if it was disability income or what it was. We need to get that inherited IRA statement so that we can transfer that inherited IRA over. Joe's going to reach out to you on that. And if I say Joe's going to reach out, Joe's my operations guy. If I say Joe's going to reach out to you on that, then Jump captured that. And when I go into assign the task will already be assigned to Joe because Jump knows through the integration with Quivr that Joe's on my team and that's who it's supposed to get assigned to. and
Yeah,
it'll,
and where that actually, I don't even know if I told you, but where I learned that was in office hours. So every Wednesday for 2 hours, me and Will Kaplan, many of you might know him. If not, he's been in the industry for years and years and years. And he's on the Quivr team full time now. He sold his practice. But in office hours, you can come and pretty much ask us anything you want. And AI note-taking tools are a huge topic right now. I mean, Ashley can attest our forums are blowing up with all of this, right? This is a hot topic. And somebody told me that, like, you can talk to Jump, you can talk to these things. I'm like, what do you mean? And then they started sharing that. We had, I don't know, 15 people on office hours that day, and we just chatted about that. And then I entered my busy season, my iPractice surge, and I realized that by my third or fourth meeting, I was using Jump during this. I could do what you just did. I could talk. It was like I was talking to the client, but I wasn't talking to the client. I was talking to the AI note-taking tool. So that way, when I looked at my notes at the end, everything was already there for me, which is pretty cool. Like, just like you said, but I never would have thought of that if it wasn't other people teaching me.
100%. So I think like for me, I've always been thinking about like, hey, how can we get, many of you, if you're on this, I'm sure you probably think through a similar lens of like, if only like, I have little fear of AI taking over my job because I know that AI doesn't know everything, right? And specifically like the personalization of stuff for our clients, I'm aware in my head or in our CRM of all these things that exist for this client, and the very personal things for that client. And to me, Quivr is that spot where we can, like, I can try and get all of that data to exist, as Steve has said, get all of that data to exist there. And it makes our meeting prep easier. It gives me one spot, which I think we're going to demo here, of in the meeting module that I go to. That's where I take notes. It's where I see all of the meeting prep stuff. It's where I see like, hey, how much we've done in year-to-date distributions, how much we've done in year-to-date Roth conversions, like Steve was saying, like what marginal tax bracket were they in, pulling in their data from Holistiplan, as opposed to, trying to toggle between 4 or 5 different tabs. It just makes, those seem like little things. And I do think, honestly, those little things are little things, but when you add up like 8, 10, 12 little things, it's a really big thing,
Yeah. Matt, do you want to walk through how you're using Quivr and Jump?
Yeah, I
Do
can
you
do
want me to
that.
share in the demo environment?
Yeah, you can do that.
So perfect. So what we're looking at right now is a demo environment of Quivr. The first thing you see is your homepage, and the whole point of the homepage is to make it so you know exactly what you need to do today, and then also what your team is working on in one spot. And really, it came from the firm that I used to work at, 35-ish employee, 1 point some billion dollar RAA, and I worked with 6 or 7 different CSAs and teams. And if I wanted to know what was going on with everybody, I'd have to walk around, go cube to cube, and it would take me an hour. And I'm not a very patient person when it comes to that, so I didn't like that. So the whole point of the homepage, right, is just get me the information I need about my clients now. And one section down here is all about meetings. So meeting prep and meeting follow-ups. You get to see what's going on with what meeting prep is being completed by my team. What meeting prep do I need to do? What meeting follow-up do I need to do? What meeting prep does meeting follow-up does my team need to do? So right here, I have got one meeting that I've got to prepare for, but then one meeting that I need to finish my follow-up for. So Matt, where would you like me to go? And you can kind of walk through what you do.
Yeah, well, I guess I would just say on this, I like this piece because, I'm logging everything that we're doing as we're prepping the meeting. So like Camilo on my team will do like the kind of the initial prep, and then once he's done, it moves it over into mine, and then I know, hey, I've got to review this and then kind of give it the final sign off, if you will, before I know that, hey, all of that meeting prep is complete. And then same thing, like I'm not checking all the boxes that are complete on the meeting follow-up until they're absolutely complete. So it really gives me an accurate feel of everything that's going on. So I think, yeah, what I think would be good is if you went into one of the actual meetings. So if you went to that, like the meeting follow-up there, the 25 spring review for Jim and Pam. Yep. Perfect. And here for me, if you scroll down a little, Steve, like where the way that I do it, is on, scroll down a little bit more, I think here. Yeah, so in here, yep, all the meeting agenda, we'll populate that with the agenda that we're going to talk about. And then if they put anything in Calendly when they schedule, hey, I want to talk about this, we're adding that in there to make sure that those are discussion points that we're addressing. And then obviously all the meeting notes, those notes, I presume those ones were populated by Jump. So we'll take our notes in there as well. Then if you go to the follow-up, then meeting follow-up, then we've tailored our stuff here. So our primary advisor follow-up for us, it says, send email, create tasks, and then I'll just select them and save them that they've been complete. Any secondary stuff for our CSA to do, we would assign there. And then at the bottom, when it's all complete, I would check the box that, hey, the meeting follow-up's complete, and then I would hit save. And once I've done that, then that moves it out of my queue, if you will. So I know that I don't have to worry about the follow-up for this client any longer, that we've completed everything that we were looking to do. On the meeting tasks, which we're typically creating from Jump, and then we'll typically assign them to the meeting. So we'll assign the task to the meeting, so that way if my operations team is looking at it and they're like, what does this mean? Then they can look to the meeting notes to grab more context of what was going on. But for a lot of that stuff, like, if we're doing, well, like for this one, I'm going to do meeting follow-up for as soon as I get off of here. We've got to do $8,000 contribution to their donor advised fund. We've got to do $1,000 a month gift from their donor advised fund to their church. We've got to do a $15,000 Roth conversion. I need to double check their backdoor Roth. I'm going to create those all as tasks and then assign them to Joe on my team. And then I'm done. If Joe has questions on it, then he'll reach out to me and say, hey, can you provide a little bit more color on this? And I try to give him as well. Jump is taking my comments from the meeting. And so as long as I'm doing a good job of describing what needs to be done in the meeting, then usually the notes that are created in that task or that workflow are correct. And I can just, tailor it to the language that I would use.
Perfect.
I don't know if you have anything else in the way that you use it either, Steve, on this.
No, the meeting prep and follow-up are huge. Like what you just mentioned there. And what he means by bouncing around is, let's say we're done with our follow-up. So these are the two things we need to do with the primary advisor. We go ahead and we move it over and we hit save. This is now telling our team that we're done and it's time for them to start working on their follow-up, scheduling meeting, scheduling the next one, doing whatever they need to do. And then on the home page, you actually see these meetings bouncing around. So I finished my follow-up. Well, now I know my team is now working on their follow-up. This was really helpful for me during my busy season where I have 5, 6, 7 meetings a day. And I know, is my team keeping up or is my team behind? Because if I get done with a 6-meeting day and I see 6 meetings here, then I know something is wrong. I need to get on the phone. I need to make a phone call. But if I get done with my 6-meeting day and there's only 2 here, then I know my team's keeping up and everything's fine. Then likewise, I know when it's time for me to do stuff. I know when they're waiting on me, right? I don't want to have my team bring me that virtual manila folder to ask me when it's time to do stuff. So that's really big to me. And then also a huge thing inside of the meeting module as well is we want you to be 2 clicks away from any piece of data at any point in time. So this financial planning data, I don't know how often you click in on this, Matt. Do you click in on it a lot?
I have not really much in this review session, but I know this is, not to deviate too much, but as I said at the beginning, the thing that's comforting to me about using Quivr is that I know that what I'm using today is the same tool that I'll be able to be using in 10 and 20 years from now. It's a lot of data that can go in there, which means it's to get the full functionality of it is work to be able to get it all to work the way that you want it to. But I know that the work that we're doing is going to be paying dividends for many years to come. So
For sure. And a lot of this too is a lot of this data also is populated by integrations too. But
yes,
it's a nice thing, the client says, my power of attorney is my sister. And you say, well, I don't think it is. Well, your estate plan, and then boom, you're actually in this client's estate plan with documents, and you can see that. Or, if you're utilizing the holistic plan integration, for example, you actually have access to tax return data, right here, just fresh. And then we talk about that circular loop of data. Well, if the data is inside of the CRM, then theoretically, Jump should be able to capture that and meeting follow-up, meeting prep. The AI tool then is even stronger because it has access to all of this data. Whereas this, all right, if you have data in 17 different spots, right, over in Holistic Plan, over here in your CRM, in Google, the handwritten 8 things that you wrote down, Matt, it's impossible for the AI tool like Jump to capture that. Yeah, but one thing, yeah, no, you're good. You keep going.
I see a couple Q&As here that are directed at me here, so I'll address them if that's okay.
Yeah.
So one of the questions was, Matt, do you copy and paste the meeting notes from Jump, or is there a direct integration? There's a direct integration. So I go on the Jump. Steve, do you want to, or Steve or Ty, can you pull up the Jump one and just show how it integrates, or I can probably pull one up too if that's easier, whichever.
Hi, do you have one open?
Okay, so you do have one open?
He's on mute.
Yeah, let me pull one up real quick.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's a direct integration. Yeah, you just simply click the add meeting notes and then review it, and then click sync, and it automatically populates instantly to your CRM. Okay, hold on. How do I say that? Hold on. I need to. Okay. Did I understand correctly that Quivr both creates and assigns follow-up tasks based on capturing the name of a specific team member responsible for that respective action item? Yes. Yeah. So it will, unless I say, it will typically default assign the task to me. So in some ways, you kind of have to train yourself to how to do it if you want it to assign to someone else. Which I've been getting better at. So if I know that, hey, Joe's going to follow up and send you that, send your inherited IRA application. If I say that, as opposed to we'll get back to you, then it will assign it to Joe, which is nice.
And then if it's wrong too, it's just a drop down that queries all of the users in your system. So if you're a firm with 7 or 8 people, you can just hit that drop down and all 7 or 8 of those people will be there, and you can just select whichever person you want it to be assigned to.
Correct. Yep.
And here, Matt, here's on the screen is the sort of that sync note looks like. Just an example of, yeah. So it's integration directly with Quivr. Post meeting, you'll hit this. We call them automations. It'll show the note. You can then edit directly and just sync directly to your desired location. In this case, most of the time it's the meeting module within Quivr.
Yes. Good. Matt, are you mainly creating the tasks, or is Jump creating them for you to automatically sync to Quivr? The tasks are automatically created and to sync to Quivr. Yep. So sometimes, like, just as kind of a best practice, like if you just, so when I'm still taking notes on a piece of paper, usually what I'm doing is I'm just taking notes of tasks that I know need maybe a little bit more color than what I'm discussing in the meeting, right? So something that I'm not verbalizing in the meeting, I'll scribble on a piece of paper. And then at the end of the meeting, sometimes I'll just do kind of a recap and say, perfect. So our homework assignment for you, we're going to send you, Scott, we're going to send you an inherited IRA application to get that inherited IRA transferred over here. What we need from you is we need that statement from Fidelity. And I'll have Joe send you the inherited IRA application. And then we're going to do that funding from your joint account into your donor advised fund for $8,000, and we'll send $1,000. So if I separate it all out like that, then it'll create it typically as all of those as kind of individual tasks. Even if you don't do it that way, Jump usually still captures all of that and will create the tasks automatically. But sometimes I'll do a summary at the end, both for the interaction with the client as well as the note taker, to make sure that it's getting the information that I want it to populate in the task.
I find writing things down is still muscle memory for me. You've been doing it for so long, I still write it down and then throw it away. It's like, what did I do this for?
What tags do you add to your client meeting CRM sync?
I'm not quite sure what they're asking.
I'm not 100% sure what the question is exactly there. I mean, we're tagging it to the very specific meeting record in Quivr. So that's maybe a little different than like other CRMs where we're just, other CRMs are maybe just taking notes. There's a specific meeting module, as Steve highlighted, so that when those notes get entered, they're going to that specific meeting module. I don't know if that answers the question or not. Can you train Jump to take notes more like bullet points and paragraphs, like more consolidated, Ty?
Yeah, yep, it's all very customizable. So you can definitely make them bullet points if you'd like.
Quite a few questions on how Quivr fits in. We've had a couple questions about, do we work, since we're built on top of Salesforce, could we be built on top of Advise-On, Redtail, or some of the other CRMs? No, the answer is no. Quivr is meant to be an alternative to those. It's a full-blown CRM that you would not operate multiple systems at one. Quivr would be the hub of your business. It would be the CRM if you wanted to utilize Quivr in your business. And then with that, right, you'd have your portfolio management tool, planning tool, all the other tools. But Quivr would be the CRM. Let's see.
I'll touch on this. Jump, can you talk to the pre-meeting prep process? How does that work? Essentially, we use two data sources as the pre-meeting prep generation. One is the CRM context, and one are past meetings within Jump. So if you met with someone, let's say Sylvia, and you've already met with Sylvia 5 times in Jump, we'll review those notes as part of that prep documentation. And we go off of a question and answer sort of model. So within the settings, you can set questions you want Jump to try to answer. An example of that question would be like conversation starters. And then the AI would then review past Jump meetings as well as what's in the CRM, Quivr in this example, for that specific contact and try to answer those questions. And it's configurable in the sense that you can add additional questions to that to try to get the meeting prep to answer specific prep notes that you'd want.
David asked, current Jump Quivr user, when syncing notes, I don't see an option to sync the specific meeting module. Is this a setting? I'll yield to Ty a little on this, but one thing I do want to say is, again, like one of the things that I've been most impressed with from Jump is their responsiveness to tailoring their tool to my operations and the way that we do things. Yeah, I've just been really appreciative of that. So when I've reached out to them, and I'll let Ty answer the question more directly. But yeah, when I reach out to them, I've been very responsive. And the nice thing on a lot of these things is that you just train the tool to do it and do it this way every time, and then it does it that way every time. So David, to answer that question, yeah, I would probably reach out to Jump to figure out how to do that. One of the things, again, that I think has been, somebody mentioned some of the things that are specific Quivr Jump integrations, like the 1-sentence summary, the meeting agenda, the meeting notes. The next meeting agenda was something that I was like, man, that'd be quite helpful to be able to have that. So I reached out to Ty and I said, hey, is this possible? And he's like, yeah, we can do that. So he helped me, he took what in my brain what I thought was possible, and we created an automation. So at the end of each meeting, one of the tasks that pops up is create next meeting agenda. And really I hate to sound like a kindergarten teacher here, but you're only limited by your imagination.
And David, actually, it's funny you asked that question about syncing to an existing meeting module. I asked for the same thing, and Ty had it to me like in an hour, so it's live. I just have to get that in the community so you guys can use it as well. So that's probably on me more than it is on Ty. And another question from Noah, current functionality, but more specific, what's on the roadmap. The cool thing about this webinar is there were a couple hundred people registered, and I recognize a lot of the names. So that's neat because what we can start doing is in the community compiling the best practices or some of these features that, Matt asked Ty for X, but someone else wants it too. How can we make sure that we all know that? If you get that to me, you get that to Ashley, you submit that through the info or even just like a ticket as an FYI, and let us consolidate that information. It's only going to get better for all of the users.
Yeah. And one thing I'll note too is I keep saying this, but Jump is customizable to where you can create the automation. So you mentioned here, like, can you push to the fields such as one sentence summary, meeting agenda, meeting notes? That the one I recommend is just reaching out to the help at jumpapp.com, or if you go through our website, there's like a little pop-up where you can chat with someone. And there we have a whole team dedicated to setting up these automations. So they can work with you and be like, what do you want to do? Let's figure it out, and they'll help make it happen. So I encourage you to reach out there.
I love that question. Katie, I want to know the answer too, Ty. Is there a compliant texting solution on the roadmap for Jump?
Not currently, but I'd love to learn which one you're referring to there. But currently, no, we don't have any compliant texting solutions. Mainly, we just have video conferencing tools, VoIPs, like RingCentral, Dialpad, Intulse, but no compliant texting solution currently, no.
Katie, there is another company, not to steal Jump's thunder here, but there is another company that is doing some pretty cool stuff with texting. The company name is Current Client. We are working on an integration with them, and that might solve your problem there. They won the other award at XY. They're pretty cool. What else?
To answer Brian's question here, is there a way to add thoughts, notes to Jump pre-meeting to make sure it is discussed with client? If currently there's not a way to edit the pre-meeting prep, so there's not currently a way to like add thoughts with directly in Jump. It would have to be separate. But on the roadmap, we have the idea of making it more editable, so you could add your own personal thoughts to the prep document, not just what's generated by the AI.
So Brian, that's a theme that was big to me. Right, I do a traditional every 6-month meeting, spring, fall. But what happens if the client emails me in June? Maybe that's what you're talking about. Maybe it's more so of I'm doing the prep the week before the meeting, and I want to make sure to talk about ABC. But mine was more so the missing items between meetings, or an email that a client sends, 3 months before their next meeting, and in reality, it's like, do you actually want to talk about this now, or do you want me to add this to the next agenda? And I find 9 out of 10 times the next agenda is sufficient. Inside of the meeting module, we do have a box that's just called what's it called? Between meeting notes or something like that. And it's essentially the giant post-it note that is exactly what you're talking about. So that way, when we go to prepare for those meetings and we're looking at the pre-meeting information that's being generated, you have those notes right there. So super common things is, client never signed their IRA application, or, Matt was talking about a donor advised fund. We do a 3 and out rule. I'm not going to email you 75 times. I'm going to give you 3 reminders. If you don't do it, we're adding it to the next meeting agenda. Well, that is where you would then hold that information, or stock options are coming up, or life insurance matures, whatever that might be. Questions are still coming in. And Jump looks at that spot in Quivr. Are you guys referencing that field? It's in the meeting module, Ty?
Yeah, we should be. And one thing on the roadmap is right now the pre-meeting prep is pretty, I don't know how to explain it, like shotgunny. Like we go to the contact and sort of crawl what we think is the most relevant, like notes, tasks, meeting module in Quivr's case. But in the future, roadmap is being much more intentional settings wise, where you could say, I care about these 5 fields for prep. Look at those 5 fields and nothing else. And so that's on the roadmap to be less like mysterious to how we crawl, and more targeted, I will say. But yeah, we do, as part of the Quivr integration, we do crawl the meeting module.
And then just to be sure as well, I have the meeting, I meet 100% virtually. And if you're meeting virtually, we do recommend having the meeting module open on another screen. And if you're meeting in person, you can either print it, like physically print it or toss it in an iPad, which is what most people would do. And then that way you have it right there. So I will, like, if I'm talking to the client, I think I'm done, I will look to my left. That's the screen I hold my meeting module on. And I'm just going to scan that. I'll make things red. That way I know, it's all rich text. That way, even if Jump doesn't pick it up, or if Jump does pick it up, but I forget to look at it, right? It's right at my fingertips at all times. Do we answer those ones? I'm not sure.
I think Matt touched on the tasks. Is that correct? Matt, the man.
I think it did. Yeah. Yeah. And someone was asking, hey, are tasks, are we manually creating tasks, or is Jump creating them for you to automatically sync to Quivr? Jump is automatically creating them to sync to Quivr. Yep.
And then always editable. No automatic syncs. Always review and sync over to Quivr after done. So.
I think that is all the questions that we have in open Q&A. Matt, just to kind of finish us off for this webinar, I guess if you were to think about the before and after of using this integration, how much time is it saving? How much sanity is it saving? What's sort of like your feeling about it?
Yeah, well, I think the shortest thing would be to say it is, I feel like it saves us about half an employee. We, as evidenced by our CSA taking a new role about a year ago, it was full-time, and we replaced him with an intern that was part-time. Am I supposed to talk longer than that?
No, that's great.
I think that hopefully summarizes it well.
Yeah, that's a perfect answer. And very helpful, I would assume. Awesome. Well, there's a final poll for everybody to answer. If you'd like to speak with either Jump or Quivr, we'll be sure to reach out to you after this. But this has been great. It was awesome to have you all join us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Quivr team.